Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And one of my subscribers has awared me of a video that OmarIsuf made. And he's like, Jason, you need to check this video out because he's calling Eric Helms a natural when Eric is not in fact natural, he is drug-free. And that's a good point. It's a good point. I went and watched this video, and I've always said historically I like a lot of what Omar has done in the past. I don't necessarily like the direction his channel has gone lately. And I'm sorry, but this particular video kind of just reeked of nonsense. And I'm going to get into some of the nonsense in general. A lot of it had to do with saying stuff like he called bodybuilding a sport. Omar, you have an athletic background. You've done strength training, right? You've competed in various strength endeavors, various sports. Bodybuilding is not a sport, and no athlete thinks of bodybuilding as a sport. Only bodybuilders call it a sport, and you're not a bodybuilder, so I don't know why you're doing that. Number two, you looked at a pair of bodybuilders and talked about their body composition and used the word conditioning. Again, you have an athletic background. What the hell? What in the hell? You can't tell an athlete's conditioning by looking at a picture. That's not what conditioning means. You're using bodybuilder terminology all of a sudden. All of a sudden you sound like a bodybuilder. Are you going to start another like Nick's G4P channel to where you make a big shrine to worshiping bodybuilders? Because I'm already concerned. You called it a sport and you called their body composition conditioning. All right, whoa. No athlete would say either one of those things about these people, right? You're using bodybuilding terms. I thought you ran a strength and conditioning channel. Number two. Let's hop over and let's talk about Dr. Helms. You said some stuff that just flat isn't true. Flat isn't true. Number one, you called him a natural. Eric Helms is not natural. He is not natural. And this is a point I raised with Eric years ago before I was even a YouTuber. We got in a conversation about this. We got in a conversation about this on a forum. And I'm one of the people who said, Eric, you can't run around claiming you're natural. You're not natural. You have publicly done and had a whole cycle log of doing Superdrill. He's done a cycle. That's it. You're not natural anymore. And if we're going to be evidence-based, we all know that people who have used in the past are not natural. That's why I don't claim natural. I say that I'm drug-free, right? Drug-free. There's a difference between drug-free and natural. You should have used drug-free and enhanced because that's misleading, right? Eric is a previous steroid user. Therefore, he might be currently drug-free, but he is not natural. There are permanent structural changes that happen once you do a cycle or two or more of anabolics. That's just reality. Right? I came off TRT last year. I'm not natural. Not natural. I'm producing my own testosterone right now. Doesn't make me natural, and Eric's not natural. Okay? And that's just simple reality. And when anyone has a public known history, provable history of having done anabolics. And again, this is public knowledge with Eric. He did it all publicly under his main login on bodybuilding.com, right? He logged the whole thing. It was there for the public to see under his official login, right? And it was publicly done with his stats and everything. He tracked it, right? He is not natural. He's drug-free. So there's that to consider, and we have to factor in that he probably gained a couple pounds of muscle from that he kept for the rest of his life, right? He should be beyond his natural limit as a result of that, because he already had years of training experience, had already, I think was a Natty Pro already by then he did this cycle of Superdrill, all right? That's permanent changes. He should be above his natural limit. So you've got that to factor in. Then what else do we have to deal with here? You jumped in and you said with Eric that he has above average genetics for bodybuilding. Are you serious? Didn't we have this whole conversation before right there on your channel? Eric is one of the people who argued that contest level bodybuilders, drug-free bodybuilders, that the 25 fat-free mass index, he and Craig Knuckles argued right there on your channel, this channel, and I called them out on that then, that no, that isn't the natural limit, that it's very possible for guys, particularly guys with great genetics, to go above the 25 fat-free mass index drug-free while being contest lean, because that's what's always argued. It's not the fat-free mass index, right? It's the fat-free mass index at under a 10% body fat. That's what everyone always argues and points out. And there's a lot of reasons why we specifically say under 10% body fat, because you gain lean body mass even when you gain fat, right? In other words, if you were to liposuction 50 pounds of fat off somebody, their lean body mass will go down, even though you didn't remove any muscle. Okay? There's an important distinction. You have lean body mass is connective tissue all through your muscle and in the skin and everything directly where the muscle connects to it. There's a lot of lean mass there that a DEXA scan and stuff picks up. So if you lose a significant amount of body fat, you oftentimes lose a couple of pounds of lean mass, even if you keep all of your muscle. So there's a reason we throw those numbers out there for fat-free mass index and leanness. Now, he argued against it. And I have tried to say repeatedly, no, 25 is only for the genetic elite. Like, it's very rare for anyone who doesn't have good genetics to go over like a 24 fat-free mass index, right? 24 is probably the cap for the overwhelming majority of people. When you start talking about 24 and a half, 25 fat-free mass index for guys who are under 10% body fat, you are dealing with the genetic elite. That's the people with good genetics for building muscle. Right? That's the people with really good genetics for building muscle or bodybuilding or whatever you want to term it. Eric has never hit a 24 in contest shape, right? He's been, what, like 23 and a half. I think that's the best Eric has ever been in terms of fat-free mass index, and I called him out on that before. Of how are you going to stand there and claim that it's possible for guys to do this when you can't do it, and most of your clients aren't doing it either who are drug tested. Right? You're not capable of doing it. Your clients aren't capable of doing it because you just don't have good enough genetics. Right? Guys with good genetics might get 24 and a half. They might get close to 25. But the average guy can't do it. They can't do it. So we're sitting here and you're going to stand there and talk about his genetics, but we have Eric Helms who, after, again, over a decade of training, and having already done a steroid cycle, at least one that we know of publicly, that's documented. He can't deny that one. He couldn't even deny that if he tried to sue someone for talking about it. He wouldn't even be able to defend it in court because they could prove it. It's provable under his own admission that he has done it. So you have a former steroid user with over a decade of training experience who still can't reach the fat-free mass index that we expect to see for guys with really good genetics that he claims isn't even the limit. He claims, no, people should be able to get beyond that, which they can't. They don't. Complete bullshit. Now he suddenly has above average genetics for bodybuilding. Are you serious? Are you serious? I mean, why are you going to try to prop up your coach like that? I mean, I get it. Eric's a knowledgeable guy. But he sure has been spouting bullshit as far as, again, propping up and defending fake natties. And, again, Eric's a good coach. He is a good coach. He's a decent lifter. Extremely strong knowledge of nutritional science. Not only does he have his PhD in it, he's got a lot of practical experience in coaching people with their diets. Like, I'm not going to argue he's not a good coach. But you're going to stand here and, number one, call him natural, and he is a former gear user, publicly a former gear user. You're not natural. Number two, does have average genetics. He has completely average genetics for bodybuilding. And he's an example I've used for people in the past when they say, hey, you know, what could a person really reach in terms of body composition and size when they're really lean if they just have average normal genetics? And, you know, I've used Eric as an example. I'm like, that's actually a good example of what a person could expect to reach who really, really, really trains hard and applies themselves, you know, who doesn't have particularly good genetics. And he doesn't have good genetics. Now, the one thing you did point out, you said, well, notice that he did have bigger legs than Frank Zane, who was a pretty, you know, heavy gear user. Yeah, he does have a little more leg than him. Everything else is smaller. Why are the legs bigger? Because anabolic steroids, not all the other drugs we're using today, but just what they had in Frank Zane's day, affect the upper body more than the lower body, and Frank Zane didn't really train his legs. Frank didn't... People say, well, he worked out his legs. No, he did some leg workouts. He didn't train his legs. Go back and look at the stuff that he put out years ago. He didn't train his legs. Didn't have a strong lower body, didn't train it. Whereas then Eric has actually done powerlifting, competed in powerlifting, has had a respectable squat and deadlift. So he's obviously going to hold more size in his lower body than, you know, a moderately enhanced bodybuilder who never really trained their legs. So, I mean, we'll give him that, and that's fair enough. That does come down to training, particularly lower body development, because the anabolics just don't grow your legs as much as they do your delts and your traps and your upper pecs and all of that stuff. They just don't. They're nowhere near. But Eric did train his legs, actually has legitimately trained his legs. And so in that case, yes, you're going to see an example of lower body development that's going to be a little higher than someone like Frank Zane, who is, you know, again, a moderate anabolic user back in the day. Not a heavy user, but a moderate user. So again, you do have that in Eric's favor. And I'll point that out, that does come down to training. But all this other nonsense of calling him natural, talking about his above average genetics, both complete bullshit. Calling bodybuilding a sport, calling body fat percentage conditioning, ridiculousness. And the same thing, you know, you want to talk about bodybuilding carrying over to something positive in your life. Bodybuilding is not a positive thing. Bodybuilding destroys your health. Bodybuilding is an extreme lifestyle and it destroys your health. It's not about discipline, right? It's not about discipline. Dieting down, contest lean, like every bodybuilder is required to do, is harmful to you. It's harmful to you. That alone will hurt your health. That hurts you physically, hurts you hormonally, hurts you psychologically, even if you don't put any drugs into your body. So no, bodybuilding is not a positive lifestyle at all. And it has nothing positive to offer the world. It really doesn't. It needs to go away. And people in the fitness world need to quit talking about it in a positive manner, because bodybuilding does nothing positive to this community other than help people sell a few worthless products. That's about it. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.